My wife cheated with 2 men in our bed, while I paid for her acting dream. So I filmed everything and showed her director. Now she's jobless and divorced. I'm 33M. Before I get into my story, let me ask you something. What would you do if you walked in on your wife, the woman you trusted more than anything, making out with 2 men on your own bed? The first time I met my wife, Tracy, 29F, was at the movies. I had gone to see a newly released film with a few friends, and she was there with her group of girlfriends. We hit it off right away, and soon we started dating. After about a year together, we got married. What began as a simple friendship turned into one of the saddest love stories of my life. At the start of our marriage, being with Tracy felt like a blessing. We were genuinely happy, and I did everything I could as her husband to support her ambitions and encourage her growth. For the first 2 years, we had a great marriage. Tracy was loving, supportive, and intelligent. Honestly, she checked every box. An amazing cook, a warm personality, graceful, and above all, honest. If there was one thing I admired most about her, it was her honesty. While Tracy worked at a fast food restaurant, I worked as a graphic designer with a company that handled banners, billboards, and other print designs. We both earned decent incomes, but I took care of most of the expenses at home because Tracy used her earnings to chase her passion. Before we got married, Tracy confided in me that she had always dreamed of becoming an actress. It was something she'd wanted since childhood, but her parents never supported her ambition. They insisted she pursue a more respectable career path in college. When she told me all this and asked if I would support her pursuit of acting, I said yes without hesitation. I understood that kind of passion. I knew what it felt like to love something deeply but never get a chance to follow it. So I did everything I could to support her dreams, encouraging her to join drama clubs, take on volunteer roles, and audition for anything that could bring her closer to becoming an actress. We also made a plan. Once we had enough money saved, Tracy would enroll in a theater arts academy. Another reason I encouraged her acting career was because she was naturally gifted. Aside from her flair for the dramatic in everyday life, she genuinely had talent. Before we met, she had already taken a few acting courses and watched countless YouTube videos to learn and improve. That level of commitment told me she was serious, and I didn't want to be the one standing in the way of her dreams. We agreed to put off having kids until after she finished the academy. I truly believed that by then she'd have started landing good roles in plays or maybe even movies. In fact, I was the one constantly pushing her to take on any acting opportunities she could find, because I wanted the world to see how talented she was. Everything I did was because I wanted her to succeed and live the life she always dreamed of. When Tracy asked me if I was okay with her pursuing her dream, we were still in the honeymoon phase of our marriage. Everything was sweet and affectionate. We hadn't even had a single major argument yet. She treated me with love and respect, and I genuinely believed we were building something solid. Throughout that first year, Tracy kept applying for volunteer acting roles online, but for a while, nothing came through. There were times when she became discouraged from the lack of responses, and she considered just focusing on her job, but I kept reminding her not to give up. And finally, months after our first wedding anniversary, she got a reply. It was for a local theater play looking for new actors and actresses. When Tracy received that email, she was ecstatic, and I was just as thrilled for her. Even better, the audition was happening right in our city, so she had plenty of time to prepare. On the day of the audition, Tracy nailed it. She was selected for the role, and I still remember the joy on her face when she told me the news. The cherry on top? They were going to pay the cast for their time. Rehearsals for the play were mainly held on Saturdays and Sundays. I never imagined, or expected, that Tracy would start to change so drastically once she began. For the first few weeks, everything still felt normal between us. Our communication remained strong, and we kept up with most of our usual routines. The only difference was that we had less time together on weekends. Rehearsals took up her Saturdays and Sundays. She'd wake up early, clean the house, cook, then head off to practice, returning only in the evenings. Even though I wasn't entirely comfortable with the shift, I didn't speak up. I didn't want to ruin her first real opportunity. Besides, the money she earned on weekends was even more than her weekday wages, so I tried to be supportive. But as the weeks went by, Tracy and I started drifting apart. To stay occupied, I got into video games again, spent time with friends, or invited them over. Most of my friends were people I'd known since high school and college, guys I trusted and valued. One day, while hanging out, I told them about Tracy's acting gig and how much time it was consuming. That's when my friend Eric warned me to keep an eye on her. He mentioned how there were rumors of actresses sleeping with directors to land better roles. I brushed off his warning and told them that Tracy wasn't like that. I defended her fiercely, saying she didn't have to sleep with anyone to get the part because she was genuinely talented. Naive, right? After I said that, they didn't push the topic again, but just advised me to stay watchful. They claimed new actors and actresses had higher chances of infidelity. Even though I didn't take their concerns seriously, the idea stuck in my head. I started acting a little strange around Tracy, asking questions that felt suspicious even to me. When she noticed, she called me out for being weird and overly inquisitive. I felt bad, so I apologized and explained what my friends had said. Tracy just laughed it off. She told me she loved me too much to ever cheat. Her exact words were, "You're the best husband in the world. Only a foolish and ungrateful woman would cheat on you." That reassurance gave me a sense of peace. But I had no idea she was already doing what she did best, acting. She had been cheating on me even before we had that conversation. Tracy's behavior took a sharp turn in the following weeks. Our conversations felt forced. The warmth and excitement she used to carry when coming home were completely gone. Before, she would tell me everything about rehearsals, what happened, who did what, the personalities of everyone involved. Even though I'd never attended a single rehearsal, I felt like I knew every person there. That's how open she used to be with me. But that openness vanished. She stopped sharing anything, and she became defensive, lashing out at things I said, even old jokes that used to make her laugh. Suddenly, she accused me of taking jabs at her, even when I wasn't. Her reactions grew more sensitive by the day. Then came the wardrobe changes. Tracy started wearing clothes specifically for rehearsal, tight, revealing outfits that she'd never worn before. I mentioned it several times, but she dismissed me, said they were trendy and that I was just being old-fashioned. I figured maybe she was just trying to keep up with the other women in the play. She was always a little competitive when it came to fashion, so cheating didn't even cross my mind. But then she started changing her hairstyles every single week. She was constantly on the phone with a man she said was her scene partner. I still gave her the benefit of the doubt, until one day she crossed a line. She did something that truly upset me, something small, but enough to make me finally speak up. When I called her out, she screamed at me and stormed out. It was the first time she had ever walked out on me during an argument. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. Later that night, I talked to my friends again. When I told them everything, they didn't hold back. They were convinced she was cheating. Despite all the signs, despite how much she'd changed, I still couldn't believe it. I had sacrificed so much to help her reach this point. I argued that maybe she was just stressed and was taking it out on me. But my friends said I was blind. Blind because I was too in love to see what was right in front of me. They told me I should hire a private investigator if I truly wanted to know whether Tracy was cheating on me. At first, the idea of someone tailing my wife made me uncomfortable. But with how drastically she'd changed, I eventually gave in. The following week, I found a private investigator online and hired him to track Tracy for 7 days. On the third day of surveillance, something happened. Tracy didn't return home after rehearsals. When she finally walked through the door the next day, she claimed she'd gone to a club for one of her fellow actresses' birthday parties. She said she ended up crashing at a nearby hotel with them because it was safer than traveling late at night. What struck me as odd was that she never mentioned the party beforehand. I'd called her phone repeatedly until 3 a.m., and she finally answered, saying she hadn't heard it ring because of the loud music. Then, with a straight face, she claimed she had told me about the party, but that I just wasn't listening. I knew she was lying. Still, I stayed calm, knowing that the PI was watching her and would give me the truth soon enough. I didn't hear from the investigator until a few days later. By then, I was out of town visiting my parents. On my way back, the PI called to say he had something important to show me. Instead of heading home, I drove straight to his location. Tracy had no idea I was coming back that day. The last time we spoke, just the day before, I told her I'd be returning Monday morning, but I changed my mind and drove back on Saturday. When I met the investigator, he showed me everything, and it shattered me. There were pictures and videos of Tracy with a blonde guy who turned out to be her affair partner. There were shots of them kissing in her car, his car, out shopping, dining together, moments that told a clear story. And then came the video from the night she claimed she was at a club for a birthday party. In it, she and that man were together the entire night. They left the club around 10 p.m. and drove straight to his apartment. That's where she spent the night. She had seen all my calls and deliberately ignored them. I was devastated. This was the woman I believed I could build a future with, and she blew it all up. After showing me the evidence, the PI said he had followed her that very evening too. Tracy was with the same man, this time in my house. I was filled with rage. My hands shook. I was too angry to drive, so the PI took the wheel and drove me home. When we arrived, a blue Toyota Venza was parked in my driveway. It was the same car I'd seen in the photos and videos. That confirmed it. Tracy was in my house with him. The PI offered to follow me inside. I don't even remember if I answered. The next thing I knew, I was standing at my bedroom door. I opened it, and my world collapsed. There they were, Tracy and two men. The blonde guy was on top of her, and the other was between her legs. I completely lost it. Tracy was wearing a sheer, slutty-looking lingerie set, and both her hands were cuffed to the bedpost. When she saw me, she tried to move, but the cuffs held her in place. Fury took over. I launched myself at the blonde guy while the second man scrambled, grabbing his clothes and bolting like a scared rat. Thankfully, my PI had followed me in and pulled me back before I did something irreversible. I could have killed him. Meanwhile, Tracy, still tied up, started begging. She said I was misunderstanding the situation, that they were just rehearsing a scene for her upcoming play. That pathetic excuse pushed me to the edge. I wanted to snap, I wanted to scream, I wanted to hurt her. But instead, I turned around, stormed out, and told her to be out of my house by the time I got back. Outside, the PI handed me his phone. He had recorded everything that had just happened, and he sent me the footage. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I took it anyway. That night, I stayed at a friend's place. I was humiliated. My friends had been right all along, about Tracy, about the play, about everything. What broke me even more wasn't just that Tracy cheated, it was that she had a threesome, in our bedroom, in our bed. When I got home the next morning, Tracy was still there. She hadn't gone to her rehearsals. She knew she had screwed up. Seeing her in the house ignited my fury all over again. I snapped. I kicked her out and threw her belongings onto the front lawn. She stood there crying, begging, insisting I was making a mistake. She pleaded for a chance to explain what really happened. She stood outside for almost an hour, yelling my name and pleading to come back in. But when she realized her tears weren't working, her tone changed. She turned aggressive, insulted me, called me names, then finally stormed off. That was just last week, and I'm only now finding the courage to share everything here. I haven't been myself since I walked in on her with those two men. What shocks me most is how all of this unfolded right under my nose. I wasn't some overbearing husband. I didn't smother her or treat her like a child. We shared responsibilities. She did most of the housework, and I always controlled my emotions. I'm only pointing this out because I've read stories where men ignored glaring red flags. Now that I look back, maybe I should have launched an investigation the moment our communication broke down and she started upgrading her wardrobe. But is that what marriage is supposed to be? Always second-guessing, doubting your spouse just because they bought new clothes or come home too tired to talk? I didn't think so. What's even more frustrating is that she's been calling me non-stop ever since I kicked her out. I've been thinking about revenge, and one thing I seriously considered is showing the video I have to her director. Yep, the very same director. Tracy's director is gay, and I can only imagine how betrayed and humiliated he's going to feel once he finds out that Tracy seduced his boyfriend. And about Tracy, she showed up at my place 3 days ago. She looked miserable. Her eyelids were swollen like she hadn't stopped crying. But unfortunately for her, some of my close friends were hanging out at my place when she came by. They didn't say a word to her, but their body language, the way they looked at her, it made her furious. She exploded. "So this is it, Mike? You're gonna let your friends disrespect your wife like this over a small disagreement between us?" I didn't respond. I was inside the house listening, refusing to come out. But when she had the audacity to say that, I lost it. I charged outside, ready to give her the verbal thrashing she deserved. My friends held me back, thank God, because at that moment, I didn't care if I got arrested. Before she finally left, she started going off about all the promises we had made to each other, how I said we'd grow old together, how I promised to support her dreams. She stood there, sobbing, and asked about the theater art academy I said I'd help her get into. I wanted to walk out and tell her to ask her affair partners for help instead. But I said nothing. I just wanted her gone. Eventually, she left, humiliated. I've already contacted a divorce lawyer. Once the papers are ready, he'll send them over for her to sign. As for the revenge, you guys convinced me. Showing the video to her director might not completely destroy her career, but it'll wreck everything she's been building for months. Now that I know she cheated on me with her director's boyfriend, I'm even more determined. Thanks again, everyone. I'll share another update soon. I finally messaged him and we set up a meeting. He was clearly curious, especially since I said it involved both his boyfriend and one of his actresses. When we met, he came ready to hear it all. I didn't bother with small talk. After a brief hello, I pulled out my phone and showed him the video. His boyfriend, the blonde guy, and Tracy. As he watched, his face collapsed. I'm not exaggerating. He broke down crying right there in front of me. He confessed he had suspected something was going on between his boyfriend and one of the cast members, but he never had proof. He also told me that his boyfriend had cheated on him once before, but he forgave him because, according to the boyfriend, it happened while he was drunk. Honestly, I wasn't too interested in the history of their relationship. I only cared about what he planned to do next, what consequences he'd lay down for Tracy and her affair partner. When I asked him, he said he hadn't figured that out yet. I told him straight up, it would be weak to let them off the hook, especially after what Tracy had done to both of us. To cut the story short, the director fired both Tracy and her blonde lover. I don't know if he also broke up with his boyfriend after that, but honestly, that part didn't matter to me. What mattered was that Tracy's so-called career came crashing down. Just like that. When I found out she got fired, I felt an unexpected satisfaction. She had given her all to that project, her time, her energy, her passion, and it turned to dust. It gave me peace to know she now knew what it felt like to watch something you poured your soul into get ripped apart by someone else. Right around the time she got fired, the divorce papers were ready. My lawyer sent them to her immediately. The day she received them, she called me. She cried and begged me not to ruin everything we had worked so hard to build together. But I reminded her, she was the one who ruined it the moment she let cheating thoughts creep into her heart. I told her it was me who had shown the video to her director. I wanted her to know exactly who pulled the plug on everything she cared about. She flipped out the moment I said it, accused me of being jealous. Said I couldn't stand that she was chasing her dreams while I was stuck in mine. I laughed. I saw through it. She was trying to twist the blame back on me. I didn't give her the satisfaction. I just hung up. 2 weeks ago, she signed the divorce papers. So here I am, writing this update. Officially divorced. Yes, it hurts. I won't lie. But I'm relieved that she's finally out of my life. Thank you all for your support, your advice, and your encouragement through this mess.